So, good morning to another edition of Inspired Good Fat Life, where every day is kind of a great day. We have at Inspired Good Fat Life, our mission, if you will, is that you eat lots of good fat, which is good for your body, but also that we get a lot of nourishment for fuel for our minds and our bodies and our environment. And that said, I'm delighted to introduce our guest today, Rita Long. And she is, I'm going to look at this, so excuse me because I want to get it right. She's a personal and business growth coach, the author of 3 books, which we're going to talk about a little bit today, and a celebrated public speaker. And a cool thing about Rita is that she has worked with over 10,000 people in the world to listen to what life is trying to tell them. And this includes Fortune 500 companies like Ford Motor Company and Pfizer. She's worked with them in training and facilitating and helping us hear what's being said to us all the time, right?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So welcome. So Rita, I know you've had a really interesting career. And one of the things at Good Fat Life is we know that life is a process, right? It's not when we're younger, we think, we have to make a decision and that's what we're going to do forever. But it doesn't really work that way.
No.
Fortunately,
no.
Right?
You make me remember one of my favorites, Wayne Dyer. And he said, when we die, there'll probably be a half a tube of toothpaste left over, right? Because nothing is ever finished. We're unfinished people. And if we could understand that, I think when we're younger, it would take a lot of pressure off of us.
Well, and I even hear, in the last week, I've heard several of my colleagues say, who are, more in our age demographic, it's like, I always thought when I got to this stage of life, I would have all the answers and I would know, it would be clear. And it's not. It's like still a work in process.
55, I said, now, what? This now? So, life is an unfinished project and we're unfinished people.
And there's something magic about that.
Yeah, it's like the earth. We're ever changing. And I don't want the same things now that I wanted when I was 20.
Right.
Or even 40. It changes because of my life experiences. We talk about wisdom. Everybody wants to be wise, right? Well, wisdom is age and experience put together, right?
Well, that's a great way to put it, right?
Yeah.
Because the question always comes up is like, I wish I understood this when I was 20.
Right. So how can you be wise? How can you get wisdom without going through all the pain? You can go around that sometimes if you know yourself better. And that's really what I talk to people about, is aligning who they really are at this point in their life and listening to what their life is trying to tell them so that they can make better decisions for themselves right now, here today.
Well, so tell me, I'd love to hear how you got to this wise space.
I'm a scurvy elephant, as Wayne Dyer used to say, disturbing element, the teacher had called him, and he heard it as disturbing element. A scurvy elephant, and back and forth. He couldn't get the word straight, but it meant that he was always questioning and asking.
Okay.
And I've been that way my whole life, and a lot of being told to slow down and sit down and behave yourself, and the nuns telling me that, I wasn't able to go to college, so I should become a secretary. So I really have a belief that our beliefs guide us, and we have to take a really close look at what we choose to believe as we travel through life. Because I call it the MFFTs, mothers, fathers, teachers, preachers. They didn't want to hurt us,
right?
But they sometimes put things in our head that just weren't true.
Or limiting.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Because when I went back to college, I looked at my grades and I went, I was okay. I could have gone to college, but that was in my head for years, that I wasn't smart enough to go to college. So parents don't do it. Teachers don't do it. They're doing it to protect us, but we have to check in with ourselves. We have to start paying attention to what's going on and what we're feeling. Awareness is the beginning of all change, as far as I'm concerned.
Totally agree with you, because without it, how do you even know? And curiosity is what
Yeah.
what bubbles up awareness, if you will.
Yeah.
So we just this past year we spent a lot of time on curiosity. Just get curious. It's kind of a gift that we come with, and and wonder, curiosity and wonder.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Right.
you've got something coming up about wonder, right? And
I
living
do.
life fully.
I
Yeah.
do. More wonder, please. And that's one of the things. It probably goes with your whispers, which I want to talk more about. Is that we have wonder around us all day long. It's everywhere, but we have to stop long enough to notice. And so we've been doing a lot of focusing on that, just that, and it doesn't mean that you have to sit in meditation and all day long. It's just take little pauses.
It's being still, I think. If you haven't looked, Steven Spielberg has a really great little short video on YouTube about whispers.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's
And
awesome.
it's advice he was giving a talk, but it was advice that he always gave to his children. And he said, the whispers come quietly, they never shout. So you have to be still and listen. But if you keep getting whispers, now some whispers aren't good because they might be reliving limiting beliefs. But if there's something that we've wanted to do, or I'd like to paint, as a kid I always sketched, but I never thought I could be a painter. And I didn't start painting until after I retired, and I was bored. And then I started selling paintings. It's like we don't even know what we can't do.
Right.
And so for us to make limiting beliefs on ourselves and put limits on our expectations, we don't even know sometimes what's out there for us. So if we aren't curious and be still and be aware and go, now, why did I like that picture? I saw a picture of something and it just made me happy, right?
Right.
Pay attention to things like that. That means you might want to travel to that place or someplace like that.
Or there's something in it. So I learned later in life that when you had a desire or curiosity or you liked something, that it was, if you had that thought, that the ability to move it forward was in you. Is that because it would be like a cruel thing of nature to have a desire and not be able to move it forward?
I believe that innately, but I also believe that that's a hook that marketers have used and gotten people to try to get a side hustle or do what they really love. And my theory, it's fine. I really would, pursue my passions as opposed to punching a clock. That's just my style. And I want to put a little pitch in. We were talking to Johnny earlier and some of the staff here, and about the value of knowing what kind of personality you are, how you do what you do, why you do what you do, or is your foundation. Like, do you like confrontation? Do you like to lead people, or you like to have processes? How do you deal with rules that are set by others? So if we can learn that earlier in our lives, we could make decisions much easier.
Well, when I was in college, I had a job where I had to punch a clock. Not a good thing for me. I learned early I could never do a job where I had to punch in a clock. I just I couldn't sleep at night because worrying about being there, to punch in on time.
Yeah, and bored. And my husband was an engineer for 35 years, and he's process oriented, task oriented, and people oriented. I have a totally different personality style, and he summed it up the best way I knew how. Is he said, honey, if we went at my pace, we wouldn't know, we'd never get to where we want to go. But if we went at your pace, we'd get there and not know where we went. So that's for our relationship, we're a great balance because he looks at the detail and I look at the big picture. But it also takes some work because his pace is different than me. So all of those kinds of things, in addition to knowing why you want what you want, which is your values, your foundation, that's your character. The quicker you can learn that in life, the easier the decisions become.
Well, and I would say, I would just add to that, it's not just learn it, but accept it and appreciate that that's the gifts that you bring, right? And not be like, oh, I wish I was this way, or what's wrong with me?
Well, that's why we got the title of my last course, Permission to Be You.
It's
Because Anna said to me, I think I have my intuition's good, but I don't always give myself permission to be who I am. And yeah, you have to do that. You have to change. We were also talking earlier about stress levels. If you're doing things that really don't fit you, it'll cause you stress. And you can adapt to stress in short periods of time. So if I have a customer or a client and I know that their style is different than mine, I can slow down or speed up or give them more detail or give them less. But if I live like that 24/7, it puts too much pressure on me. Just like you punching the clock.
Right. Right.
And that's not wrong, because many people want to go in, punch the clock, and they know how much they're going to get paid every week, and they love it.
Well, and there's a structure. I mean, I have friends that if they aren't there 15 minutes before they're supposed to be there, they're stressed by that. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. I mean, but I think we were talking about wisdom earlier, right? Mm-hmm. It's like one of the things that I'm learning. I still continue to learn. This is like,
oh, yeah.
Accept and be okay with how I'm wired.
Mm-hmm.
And that my husband's wired is more like your husband. Mm-hmm. And that's fine too. And how do you blend that so you're respecting who they are, but also honoring who you are?
Well, it's funny because sometimes people will say, well, you're probably not the easiest person to live with. And I go, right, I agree. But in my eyes, that's hard for me to go at his pace. So there has to be an understanding that people are different and a
right.
willingness to communicate. And that's what makes up a good team, is having people that have different skills.
Exactly. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
If everybody was like me, I don't know. We'd be up in the clouds somewhere. Yeah. Exactly, wondering where we were.
Yeah.
But we would have had a great time getting there.
Yeah, but no matter what your style is, clarity is king. And I think the ability to listen to just to hear yourself speak in today's world.
So what are some tools? I mean, what have you found, or what do you teach people who work with you?
So being still is important, but meditating for me has always been somewhat difficult because of how fast my brain works. So I've found that one of the tricks for me is to get up and journal, do pages, morning pages.
Morning pages, yep.
And I don't always do 3 pages of it, but it's a mind dump. And then I'm able to relax a little more. And I can then put some music on and listen to meditation. That's one.
Okay.
Reason. I'm always learning is another. The biggest thing is to surround myself with the people that want me to win as well as them. I think who you hang out with is really important. We tell teenagers, don't we?
Yeah.
We tell our teenagers now be careful who you hang around with.
Right.
Because you become just like them.
But when we're teenagers, we think that our parents are clueless and they don't know what they're talking about, right? Yeah. And you get older and you go, "Wow, that really makes a difference."
That's a wisdom.
That is a wisdom. Yeah.
That's the wisdom that comes with
that
life.
Is a good one. So if somebody came to you for coaching, what would be your process? How do you start working with them?
I first always give them the disc or a like personality so that we know who we're dealing with each other.
Okay.
And then I also do values driving forces, because that's the why. That'll drive all of your behavior. And that's always a starting point for me when I coach people.
And are people generally able to fill that out easily?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And most people just are frightened that it's so accurate.
Okay, I mean, like the values. Are they able to articulate their values easily?
They aren't as easily able to articulate values as they are personality. You're right, because we really don't look at that. Values, in my opinion, are so fundamental and so innate that that's where most conflict comes from. If we get upset with someone, it usually isn't their behavior. It's usually that it's a contrast to our values, and we get upset.
And we don't know why we're upset often.
Exactly.
Or you can put it over here when it's really something different.
Yeah.
Right.
So then I start talking about limiting beliefs and the power of mindset and how your self-talk affects. See, to me, having an aligned life is when my thoughts and my words and my actions are not fighting with each other.
And that little voice in your head is on board too.
Yeah, this is good.
This is good.
Because you think something and then you say it and then you start to do it and you're hesitating. Once you get all that in alignment, everything becomes easier. You can say no quicker. You can say yes quicker.
That's really that's a very powerful concept. When you think about it, I mean, I was just all of a sudden my mind goes to, okay, I can have my mind and my words aligned, but my actions may not follow through, or they don't follow through consistently, and there becomes conflict. Right?
And that's when a lot of people will buy a course or spend thousands of dollars before they really know what will make them happy.
Got it. Because
so figure out whether you want to punch a clock or whether you want to have security, whether you want to have adventure, whether you want to work with people or not. All of that is important because if you spend time and energy and money, it's all going to be wasted if you're unhappy in what you're doing.
But sometimes that's the process of us figuring it out.
It's true.
Right? Yeah. So it's not, we have to have tools to help us figure out what we don't want often to figure out what we do want.
A real quick story. When my son was in high school, he got a job at bricklaying, 98 degrees, and he was so exhausted. They worked him 12, 14 hours a day. And he came home and he couldn't talk. I said, do you want anything to eat? No. And he was all dirty and dusty, and he sat on the floor, and I said, didn't have a good day, huh? And he says, it's awful, Mom. And I said, well, now you know what you don't want to do. So then I started talking to him about college.
Oh, okay.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
So
absolutely.
That's the experiences part.
Right.
But if you're still doing that, if you don't learn that lesson,
right.
That's the problem. If we keep making those mistakes over and over again with people or careers or anything like that.
Yeah, that's. I remember with going back to your whispers. Oprah said once, you'll hear the whisper, hear the whisper, and then it'll get a little louder. Yep. And sometimes it's like the brick upside the head before we get it.
2x4. It's like, I've been talking to you and you're not listening.
Yeah. Well, so tell me about your books. You brought one of them with you. I'd like to hear more about that.
The Whispers to Wisdom is a guided journal because I prefer guided journals in that it gives me my brain a direction to go in, as opposed to just all over the place. So
which can be very soothing.
Yes,
right, comforting.
It is. It's like a kind of self-coaching.
Okay. Yeah.
And if we learn to do that, and it talks about starts with confidence because everybody wants to be confident, Sherri, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about a time in your life where you were really confident. Confidence means you can do what you're being asked to do, and it feels good, right?
It does.
It's the best place to be.
Yeah.
But the truth is, it's the only place that confidence comes before courage is in the dictionary.
That's interesting.
In life, courage is what creates confidence because you have to go outside. If you know you can do it, it's really no big deal. I mean, you might get paid well for it, but it doesn't help you grow.
Right.
I mean, you can continue to do it, and if you're happy, that's fine. But what if the whispers are saying, hey, I want to try to paint, or hey, I want to do a podcast someday, or hey, I think I could be a teacher, whatever. If you don't listen to it, right? And if you say, well, I've never done that, well, you have to be courageous. You have to step out of your comfort zone, be a little vulnerable, be willing to play it on the field, and then your comfort zone grows.
Right. Well, since starting Good Fat Life, I feel like I've been out of my comfort zone from the get-go.
But you like that, don't you?
You become used to it, or it becomes, it's I didn't really think about that before, but I just know that, you get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right. But if you had never done it, you'd still be uncomfortable because you would think you couldn't do it.
And yes, I've had conversations about this before, it's more uncomfortable to not do it than to do it. Yes.
Well,
come what may.
Yeah. And when you talk about motivation, pain pushes until the vision pulls.
Oh, I love that.
Because if you feel pushed, nothing worth doing is if whatever you're doing, even if somebody doesn't like it, if you want to do it, it's not a problem, right? Like if you're taking
Right.
care of your parents or a sick child, it's not particularly what you want to do, but you do it because it's not a chore, right?
Right.
So pain pushes us, and that's kind of a shame, really, because if you have a vision, that will pull you. That's why clarity is king. Like, where do you see yourself in a year? Let's see, what would you like your perfect day to be like?
It's
If you
so
can talk,
interesting.
yeah. So pain pushes, and pain never feels that good.
No, but often it's a great spark for action.
Well, what does it
Right.
do to our body? What does pain do to our body?
Creates stress.
Well, it tells us something's wrong.
Yes, it does.
So we feel like it's always going to be bad if we're in pain, but the reality is maybe we just haven't had the confidence to try it. And what if the attitude of, I'm going to try it, and if it doesn't work, so what?
You learn something.
You win or you learn.
You you're just full of little.
Yeah, you win or you learn,
Right.
because you're not going to, I don't care what kind of, if you're a sports player or the best in your field, or there's always going to be somebody that is going to be better than you. If you're on a sports team,
That's
you're going to get
something, right.
beat at one time or another, and you have to learn that you don't always win. Life
Right.
isn't like that.
Right.
Unless you turn it around and reframe it and say, I didn't think it was going to be what I thought it was going to be, but I learned that I don't ever want to do that again. or I've learned that I could do it if I had to, if I did it differently, I might be able to do it. So you learn. Yeah.
So I taught creativity and innovation at the college level for years, and that was one of the things that was for the students, it was like a big what? It's like creativity, creating by nature means you're going to have failures, and it's not really failures. It's just that's how we learn,
Right.
because we're doing something new. Yeah. And so, how do you know if something's going to work or not until you try it, and then you tweak it?
And you don't have to put yourself at risk. You don't have to leave your spouse or your church. And people think when they change something, they're going to lose everything. Just start small.
Yeah.
Start small.
Yeah. Well, good. So
one of my books, really quickly though, when
Sure.
you talk about creativity, is 10 Little Rules for Your Creative Soul.
Oh, okay. So tell me more.
Well, that's interesting. That's the first book, and it's a short and sweet book that has a tiny bit of journaling, but it's basically my 10 rules for creating the life that you want. Because if you're going to create, that's the thing you want to learn to create is your life, right?
Exactly. And don't think that we're taught that in a way that is, we're taught get an education, go to school, do this, the blah, blah, blah. And maybe it's changing with the younger generations now, but I don't think we're taught where we really get that we create the life we want. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. And whatever, if we are doing something that we like now or we don't, we need to be aware that we created it that way.
Yeah.
Right?
Responsibility.
Right? Well, and that's, again, it comes back, Good Fat Life, that's our really groundly premise, is creating a good fat life. And that means the life that you want to live.
Right.
And being mindful and intentional around that.
And again, that's so valuable. And you can do that without being rude, without being
selfish,
and without being
Yeah.
selfish. In my opinion, we need to get back a little bit to the middle ground, where we realize that there are differences in people and goals, and we listen and we understand and we make a decision to do what's right for us in the right way.
And from a place of respect,
Yep.
right? And for everybody. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love what you have to say, and I know our listeners here at Good Fat Life are loving it. And so, if somebody wants to find you, learn more about your books, work with you, how would they find you, Rita?
I'm all over the place because I'm between all these things. I just do a lot of things. But my older company was Rita Long Art. I've got Rita Long Coaching on Instagram.
Okay.
and Whispers to Wisdom too,
Whispers to Wisdom.
because
Okay.
of the book that
Okay.
just came out. So,
Okay.
but I'm all over there, and I talk about my love of food and books and learning, and I just do what makes me happy and just keep trying new things.
And you live a good fat life.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
And more wonder, right?
More wonder. Yes, more wonder, please. So that said, I ask you to check out goodfatlife.com. Our latest issue is at the printer and will be posted on our website, I think today actually, which is extremely exciting, and it's very exciting. And
It's a great magazine.
well, thank you. But we have so much fun, would say, just curating and meeting all these amazing people and learning, just learning more ourselves, how we live and grow our good fat lives. And we have a workshop coming up this next weekend, which is More Wonder Please, as you said. And it really deals with movement, with sleep, with our birth charts. We're going to be learning more about ourselves. And of course, we're moving into a new season. So skincare for the winter and makeup for the holidays and amazing food. I mean, you have to have amazing food, right?
Of course.
So check us out. And Rita, thank you so much for being here. I got some great ideas for the next magazine. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my honor, always. And I take such responsibility for the things I say, that they encourage rather than discourage people.
Great. So you're very mindful of your words, right? Yes, which is a really important thing to be aware of.
Unless I'm stressed.
Well, we're human,
That's
right? And works in process. And Rita's contact information will be in the show notes. So like I said, check out goodfatlife.com and go out and live your good fat life.